pandemic has affected our work in such a way that, first of all, we are not able to reach our key constituents. We work with young people, especially young adults.
It affected our livelihoods. We have organizations whose business is advocacy centered, and in the sense that they have to go to the field, they have to engage and so on, but due to COVID related restrictions they could not.
One of the strategies which we use for us to have this remarkable progress, we looked at how do we make sure that we have COVID but services are not disrupted. I'm happy to report that we have developed a roadmap or an action plan for continuation of services despite COVID with the Ministry of Health, the WHO and other partners, which will be following from now moving forward.
We had communities in different parts of the country organize and do actions in demand for food, in demand to the end of police brutality that has been so rampant during the COVID-19 times, because the security forces, the government has been enforcing the curfew, but during this enforcement of the lockdown and everything, there have been so many human rights abuses.
It's the solidarity that CSOs have really had. You know, this period has really championed or has given room for a lot of CSOs to come together to seek for results-driven approaches that would, further the work that we are all individually doing. So I have seen solidarity across the globe. I have seen solidarity among CSOs, even in Nigeria. I've seen solidarity amongst advocates. We have all come together to speak as a voice.
I hope that advocacy will become a part of the government, where the government will have advocates among them who would go to the grassroots level and listen to what the people need or see as a challenge, and put this into consideration when they are deliberating on policies or issues to handle as it concerns communities or the people they are governing.
The future for advocacy in Nigeria or Africa is really bright, especially because most of the advocacy has focused on empowering grassroots communities or even beneficiaries who are underserved. These people who have been empowered will be able to take on the advocacy for themselves and then address their issues at higher levels.
Most of the governments have been using COVID-19 as an excuse to not provide enough information and also to not be accountable for most of the things they know they should be doing. Most of the organizations and also people have been trying to innovate and adapt the way they do their work, in this case. But with the lack of resources, things have been more harder.
We learn to save, we learn to sort of promote value for money post-COVID, because I think that's something that we struggled to do. So value for money, meaning that you don't need 10 persons from an organization to go to a meeting in New York. It's quite expensive, and you are using money that could be, used for something else that could go towards other projects that will affect people that will support people who are most affected by poverty. So I am hoping that this is something that donors take into consideration, international NGOs, different movements take into consideration, that all we have to do our work is right in our hands.
It is clear to us now that technology is the way to go.
I think it's important that donors invest in projects that are technology-led or projects that focus on improving technology so that a lot of people can be reached. It's also important for donors to focus on projects that seek to empower people at the grassroots so that in future we will not need to continue to reach out to them, but then they can step up and advocate their issues themselves.
No matter the situation, because the pandemic took us unawares, no matter the situations, we all have that inner strength, to strive through unforeseen circumstances, and this for me is the hope I believe in Africa and the world in general.
COVID-19 is extremely important. Nobody's gonna do anything without paying attention to COVID-19, but it's not the only thing that people need to pay attention now.